Welcome to 3 proven sales plays to stack your pipeline in Q4. The holidays are upon us, everybody, and it is the end of the year. So I'm going to walk you through some hyper tactical plays to make sure you crush your number. And then I'm going to show you how to do a bunch of it in Apollo. And your hosts today. My name is Zoe Hartsfield. I'm a longtime seller, recent convert to the marketing side on the content side of the house. And I also still sell stuff sometimes. My whole job here at Apollo is to make content that helps you be better at sales. And I'm really, really pumped to be here today to share some of my favorite sales plays that helped me hit President's Club when I was a rep. So let's talk about it. How are we going to hit our number? How do I ensure I hit my number before the holiday crazies hit? Really quick story time. When I was a little baby SDR, I had just been promoted to a new outbound team. It didn't exist. And we had no training. We had no enablement. My sales manager's experience was in door-to-door sales. He'd never sold software before. And we were given an arbitrary goal of 12 meetings per month. So during ramp, as a new rep, you get this kind of like grace period. Your quota is a little bit lower. I don't know if anybody's ever been on a ramp before, but it's kind of nice. You get some time to get up to speed. But I really wanted to be the first person to hit that 12 number. I have a little bit of an ego. I'm very competitive, and I wanted to be the first one to do it. So my second month on ramp, still in my grace period, I had booked 7 meetings. And I went and looked at my sales engagement platform and saw I did about 1,000 activities over the course of that month. And it hit me. This is all just a big math equation. So I built a resource to help me figure out what inputs were required to help me achieve my ideal outcome. And thus, this calculator was born. And I'm going to show it to you in just a second, but it became really, really useful to me during the holidays. Holidays are crazy busy, and people are flaky as hell. There's nothing worse than heading into the holidays and stressing about whether or not you're going to hit your number, though. Like, I remember being nervous at the end of the month, like, how am I going to make up this gap? You'd much rather be chilling with your loved ones than stressing over closing the gap in your quota. So instead of losing your mind over the end of the year scaries, let's get ahead of it. And we're going to do that using this calculator right here. Pulled it up for you. So it's very cutesy. It's very demure. I made it myself. You're going to go make a copy of this when you pull it up in the resource center, add it to your Google Drive, and then you can use it. Please, please, please make a copy. Don't edit the original. And if you're taking a look here, and now I'm getting an error because everybody's in this spreadsheet all at once. There's an entire YouTube video that gives you a really, really deep dive. We spent some time going over the exact mechanics and the math that go into this calculator. I'm not going to do that right now. Really, really high level is you're going to look at the last month of work and see how many activities did you do, how many meetings did you generate, and how many of those meetings turned into actual sales opportunities. Then looking forward, you want to take a look at what's my goal of opportunities for the next month and how many selling days do I have next month. So I like to do this on the last day of the month, look back to the previous month, look ahead to the next month. And pro tip, factor in holidays, PTO, weekends. If I'm looking at November and I know that I have some PTO, maybe there's 22 selling days in a regular November, but because there's Thanksgiving and I'm taking vacation, maybe I only have 18 selling days. Okay, great. This calculator is going to do some magic for me, and it's going to spit out exactly how many activities I need to conduct to hit my goal opportunities. And even better than that, it's going to break it down into a day-by-day metric. I know I need to do 143 calls, emails, LinkedIn touches, whatever that spread is, to make sure I hit my number. There's a couple ways you can bolster your chances of making this super successful. And number one, I did this all the time, is just pad those numbers a little bit. So I would add 10 to 20% to whatever the calculator spit out for me, just to be safe. And also, if you know it's going to take you 150 activities a day to hit your goal, just don't sign off until you've done it. I mean, we just saw a sales story about somebody doing the last cold call on the last day of the month at 5:30 after the workday was over, and they hit their quota. That's incredible. So if 5 p.m. rolls around and you have 3 more dials to make those dials. Obviously, know yourself. We're here for some work-life balance. But if you can master the discipline of committing to the activity required to hit your number, you're going to be unstoppable in sales. Another tip is just to improve your booking rate. You can do this by A/B testing your sequences, improving your targeting, tightening up your messaging. Really, this just means booking more meetings for every X number of activities. So, again, we wrote a book on outbound sales. There are tons of great strategies that will help you improve your targeting, improve your messaging in there. Go check it out. Next, double down on the channels that work for you, that you are the strongest in. Adding an extra email step if you're good at copywriting makes sense. Adding another cold call if you're dangerous on the phones makes sense. I sucked at cold calls. It wouldn't make a ton of sense for me to add 50 more every day if I wasn't very good at them, but I was really dangerous at social selling. So when adding additional activity, I would always add a couple other social touches or video emails to my process. Just do more of what works for you. And finally, you can improve your hold rate. For every meeting you book, how many show up and convert? That's what hold rate is. We're going to talk about a couple of ways to improve your hold rate in just a bit. But first, let's cover meeting strategies philosophically. How do you get someone to agree to meet and be excited enough that they show up, especially during the end of year madness? My first tip, and I cannot stress this enough, is front load the month or quarter, especially during this busy time of year. You're going to get almost 40% more reschedules and no-shows during the holidays than any other time of year. And people forget they've got like obligations, they have family in town, kids get sick. One time I had this prospect named James. He emailed me 30 minutes before a demo that I was so excited for because he was a tier 1 account and I really, really wanted him to show up. He forgot his daughter's holiday play. People are really busy. Schedules are so messy and you have to be really strategic about when you're asking for meetings and how you're going to get them to show up. So have a little bit of flexibility, but make the meeting enticing enough that people actually want to be there. How do you make the meeting the highlight of their week? I like to think about it this way. Booking meetings is just selling that conversation. You are selling you and your expertise. You are the product in that moment. So sell the value of what they're going to get out of that conversation with you. Feature dumping and talking at them for an hour is not interesting. Offering them a strategic consultation or, like trying to help them solve their problem, that is. Having an incentive for them to show up is interesting. You're just trying to offer value beyond a typical sales call. So, really quickly, let's cover incentives. You could use gifting as an incentive. That's like a very obvious, very straightforward way to do this. You could use a gift card. Maybe you're going to send them treats. We've done custom art before here at Apollo. It can be something big. It could be something small. You could send it yourself. You could use a gifting platform like a Sendoso or a Reach Desk, but gifting is just like a really straightforward way to incentivize a meeting. And if you are sitting here thinking, yeah, Zoe, but my company is 9 people and my budget is $7 in a paperclip, no shot I get any budget to gift people. Lucky for you, value doesn't have to cost you a dime. So let's actually talk about offer creation for a quick second here. I personally prefer this method because it's affordable, it's scalable, and it also establishes a lot of trust and rapport with your buyer that you know what the heck you're talking about. Offer creation is just about tying a free resource to your product, but it needs to be high enough value that it makes sense for them to show up and talk to you about it. We aren't talking about, oh, I'm going to send them a webinar invite when they show up to this meeting, or I'm going to share a link to a blog post. No. This needs to be something they can only get by showing up and talking to you. So how do you take a portion of the service or product that you offer and create a free offering and a reason for them to show up to the conversation? If you're a consultant, maybe you give like a free audit. If you have a tool and maybe you're doing like a competitor play, offer them a strategy session about how to use tools in that category. For example, at Apollo on demos, we'll often offer to enrich a list right in Apollo as like a data test. So it's something of value, it's given for free, and it lets them kind of try before they buy. If I was a social media consultant or something, I would probably offer a free social media audit. If I sold a video tool, maybe I would give a video strategy session. And the first 15 minutes would be, here's 3 different types of videos you personally should be selling to generate more pipeline. And then the last 15 minutes would be me doing it in the tool that I sold. You're just trying to provide value. You're establishing yourself as a subject matter expert and you're building trust. Quick tip in Apollo. When I book meetings that are centered around a value offer, I really like to name my meetings in relationship to the offer. So, show you here real quick in our meetings tab. If you haven't been there, it's over on the left-hand side, click meetings, go to this tab right here, scheduling pages, and then hit create. I am here to create Apollo strategy session. Or you know what? I actually don't even want it to be named after Apollo. I want it to be pipe gen strategy session. This is going to do a couple different things. It's going to name that meeting with that type. You want to make sure that you are the host. You're a specific user. So I'm going to make it me, Zoe at Apollo. If you've never created a meeting before, you should. It's great. Hit continue. Hit continue. You can make an intake form if you'd like. And then boom, my meeting type will show up. I was using strategy session before. I'll show you what this looks like in my calendar right here. I like this because when it shows up on my calendar, when it shows up on the prospect's calendar, it's going to say Apollo strategy session, Pipe Jones strategy session. So it's going to remind me, what is this conversation about? Not Apollo demo, not Zoe is going to try and sell me a tool in this meeting. It doesn't scream sales, it screams value. And so there is a lot of value. It's a really, really easy, simple change, and I highly recommend you take advantage of it. All right, so we know our numbers. And we know what the required activity is to book enough meetings to hit them. We also understand how to create a compelling incentive or like offer to get folks really excited about those meetings. So let's talk about 3 sales plays to actually book these meetings and get them to show up and convert, shall we? I picked these 3 in particular because while they're important and are helpful year round, they're extra effective during the end of your push. Gifting makes sense because it's 'tis the season, and referrals convert at nearly 7x the rate of a cold email. We need all the help we can get at the end of your push, let's be real. This meeting hold play will just reinforce that people show up or at least reschedule. So no call, no shows. They can reschedule. Their calendars are so hectic. And that's just like a really helpful thing to do is like, let's increase our hold rate. Let's make sure people show up to these meetings. Let's optimize that process. So let's dive in. We're going to talk gifting really quick here. Gifting is a strategy that can be used as a way to grab somebody's attention. You could take an engaged prospect from like an observer or a lurker to an active participant in the conversation with a gift. And it could even incentivize them to show up to a call, as we mentioned earlier. One time I sent a prospect the left shoe of a pair of custom Nikes. He'd been opening my emails for like 3 weeks and not responding, and he was a tier 1 prospect. So I sent him the left shoe with a note that said, ever feel like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop? Build more predictable pipeline with BombBomb. And then I sent him a video holding the right shoe and promised I would send it to him if he gave us 30 minutes to share how we could help his team 5x their pipeline coverage next quarter. And he emailed me back and said, all right, you got me. Let's see what y'all can do. A question I get a lot about gifting is how the heck do I get their address? Most data platforms will have company addresses. The data is at the company level, and that's for like a number of reasons. It would be super weird if my personal address was just like floating out in the ether for everybody all the time. You can always send a gift to a company address, but since the world has gone a bit remote, I usually prefer to ask what the address is. And there's a couple ways to do this. You could ask their executive assistant if they've got one, if you can find them. You call the office and ask, if I sent a gift there, would James be able to see it? Would he be notified? Would he be able to come in and get it? You could also just literally email the prospect and tease that you have a gift for them. A lot of gifting tools will have a form people can fill out that's GDPR compliant so that they can give you their address without it kind of like floating around anywhere suspicious. And then you can send it to them directly. We need to talk about messaging now because you can't just like send a gift with no context. I mean, I guess technically you could, but it's not very meaningful and it would confuse people. So let's pretend I'm reaching out to Leandra Fishman, CRO at Acme Corp. I know because I've been paying attention to Leandra's email that she's a golfer. I also know she's super passionate about her reps' performance and forecasting because that's what she writes about a lot. I'm going to send her custom golf balls with her company logo. This is an important distinction. Oftentimes companies send gifts with their own company logo. It's a way nicer touch to send someone a gift with their company logo. I've tried this many times. I've A/B tested it. It's just more effective. Trust me. When I have a confirmation that she has received this gift, I would send an email that looked a little bit like this. And all of these like templates, sequences, all of this copy is in the resource section. So you can take a screenshot, but it's all going to be in the resource section in a doc. So don't stress about writing it down. This is all about tying your value prop to the gift in a way that makes sense. It doesn't really need to be complicated. It doesn't have to be fancy. In fact, you're welcome to be very cheesy. We're just grabbing their attention, demonstrating we've done our research on them and that we have a solution to a problem they're actively facing. Here's the exact sequence. Again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through this. You can go check it out in the resource section. But pro tip, if there is zero engagement, I wouldn't waste the budget and send the gift. If the person has not responded to you or even opened your email, don't send them a gift. If they accept the gift, however, this would be a great opportunity to drop them into like a short follow-up sequence to lock in the meeting itself. And here would be an example of a reverse voicemail. I'm just mentioning it here because people ask about this all the time. It's in that previous sequence, again, in the resource section. Since there's no sales engagement platform on the market that natively lets you send a GIF, most people rely on integrations and manual tasks. So taking a look in here in Apollo, this is my gifting sequence. I really love manual tasks because they can be used to fill or remind me of my less scalable work. I send a lot of emails, make a ton of calls. Those are all very easy to like automate and structure in here, but most people aren't sending 50 gifts in a day. So dropping a manual task or an action item into a sequence for things like engage on a LinkedIn post or send a gift is really useful so that you can customize your own workflow. You can kind of use it like your own personal sales to-do list. And here's exactly how you would set up a manual touch point or custom task in Apollo. I would just go to the sequences tab. I would add a step to my sequence. And if you're like, I don't know how to build a sequence, so we have plenty of resources in the academy for exactly how to build a sequence. They're probably even linked in that resource section. So go check it out. But you can look at this, all these different types of actions I could set up. I'm going to add an action item, a manual task. I can set how many days I want it to happen after the previous task. I can set the priority, high priority, low priority, but here would be send a gift if engaged, skip if no reply. Just like it's a note to self and then hit continue. Boom, it's right there. It falls in line in my sequence. I'm reminded of the level of importance. I can see the note to myself of what I'm supposed to do here. And it's as simple as that. This is just a quick tip as well, similar to, make sure they're using their company logo, not your company logo all the time. Be thoughtful about gifts. They do not have to be super expensive. They should be a little bit personal. One time I sent somebody a very nice bottle of wine only to get an email back that they were like, hey, Zoe, thanks for the thought, but I've been sober for 10 years. And I felt kind of bad. It's an honest mistake, but, just be mindful of people. Like, gifts don't need to be expensive. They don't need to be fancy. I one time had a teammate who physically crocheted her prospect's company logo onto like a pot holder and sent it. And she did book the meeting. It does not have to be spendy. It just needs to be delightful. All right, moving on. Here's play number 2, and this one might be my favorite. Did you know that referrals convert at 7x the rate of cold outbound? Yes, you did, because I said it like 6 slides ago. But did you also know that deal cycles tend to be 20 to 30% shorter than cold outbound when it comes from a referral because of the pre-existing relationship? One of the best campaigns I ever did leading up to the holidays every year that I was in sales was ask my happy clients for referrals. I was an SDR, so I would partner with my AE and CSM to pull a list of our happy clients in the last, 6 months to a year. And I would drop them all in a sequence, effectively asking for intros. The sequence itself is very, very short and sweet. I actually booked 14 meetings the last December that I was in sales using this exact play. So I highly recommend giving it a try, especially like early on in the holiday season. The trick is really just to tailor the first touch point to the person. And I would recommend hitting up either your AE, your CSM, or you, whoever has the best relationship, the closest proximity to the client, and then use whichever of these 3 channels you have the best relationship on. If you're on a texting basis, I would text them. But if you're not, maybe send them a DM. That feels more personal. Otherwise, give them a ring. You need to offer to do all of the legwork. You are asking them for a favor. So you have to be willing to do everything outside of looping in the new prospect themselves. That means maybe jotting down the copy that they could send, and all you have to do is CC you on that intro. We are asking for referrals. We're reminding them of the value they got from their solution that they bought from you. And we're asking if they know anybody else in their network who could potentially benefit. Here's the copy I used for the sequence. We threw it in the resource kit. Go ahead and snag it. But here's a pro tip based on that sequence. You probably didn't catch it on the previous slide. I love using this, especially for a referral, because they know who I am. They've seen my face before. It's kind of silly. It's kind of cheeky. On day 5, there is a threaded reply in the suggested sequence. And I actually use a simple GIF. Is it GIF? Is it GIF? Please tell me in the comments. A simple GIF teasing the value of the copy in the previous email. You can make one for free in Canva, or you could download a random different person doing this as well. I think that there's a personal touch when you use your own face, but I do this literally all the time. And you could actually use a bump like this in basically any sequence you ever build. Since I actually use this all the time in my sequences as a reply for a very high valued email, I saved it as a snippet. And snippets and templates are really, really good for email copy or for repetitive messaging that you use across multiple sequences. So I'm going to show you really, really quick where and how to use a snippet. A lot of people have no idea that this exists in Apollo. So I like showing it to them. But if you were to go into, sorry, I already had it queued up. I jumped the gun. If I was going to go in and edit this step, this is the reply thread. I would just hit add a snippet. If I didn't have a snippet already created, I could create one. It would let me make it right here. I would hit save. But since I already built it, I would hit add snippet, click the snippet. It drops it right in. I hit save. And now look at that. My email has the snippet. It took me 2 seconds. And so when you're building lots of sequences, if you're A/B testing sequences, if you're trying to split things out by persona, snippets and templates are going to be really, really useful. But I love that bump email. It's worked really well for me. I think I have like a 39% reply rate on that email step almost anytime I used it in a sequence. Finally, if and when they do make an intro off of this step, 2 things need to happen. Number 1, you have to be willing to draft that email copy and send it to them to forward on to the prospect. Again, we got to be willing to do the legwork. They're doing us a favor. But number 2, I highly recommend you send a thank you gift for the customer that made the referral. Because referrals convert at such a high rate, the ROI on a little gift saying like, thank you so much for that intro is very well worth it. You don't need to promise it up front. I just like to do it as like a way to reinforce the relationship after the fact. It's kind of like a surprise and delight situation. It also sends a subliminal message to the prospect, or really to the client, that says, oh, when I send Zoe referrals, she sends me a nifty gifty. And that is exciting. All right. The final play. This is a great way to ensure that, you've got your incredible offer, you've got a couple powerful sequences to get people to book the meeting. How do you make sure they show up during the holiday crazies? So once the meeting's been booked, how do we get them to show? Well, you got that sweet little calculator to tell you what your conversion metrics are. The point between activity and meetings is called your booking rate. The point between meetings and opportunities is your hold rate. If your hold rate is higher, you don't actually have to book as many meetings. If my hold rate is 20%, then I need 100 meetings to generate 20 opportunities. But if my hold rate is 60%, I only have to book about 30 meetings. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. I appreciate you all. All right. Industry average for a hold rate is actually about 65%. And back when I was a rep, I was average as hell. Then I figured out this play and it changed everything. I went from about 60 to 65% up to an 89% hold rate within 1 month. And I kept it within that 89% threshold, or about 3 to 5% of that, for the remainder of my tenure as a seller. So here are the exact ingredients that I used. First things first, I like to use video. Put a face to the name. Fun fact, did you know that the human brain releases oxytocin when it sees another human face? We're social creatures, and something about it kind of bonds in us when we make eye contact. So me reading your email off a page doesn't hit quite the same as a 20-second video of you smiling and talking me through the same information. So leverage video. Also, we need to stay top of mind. Meetings are not set it and forget it, especially when you are trying to sell someone something. Think about the last time you booked a dentist appointment. You know why they have those automated emails that go out to you a week, a day, the morning of your appointment? It's because people book those meetings months in advance and completely forget. I cannot tell you how many dentist appointments I've missed, you guys. During the holidays, folks are that much more forgetful and busy. So a few reminders before the meeting is going to help your hold rate significantly. I tend to recommend 2 to 3 touches based on a couple of factors. Taking a look here, visually, you can see if I book a call today and it's for next Friday, there's a lot of time in between for these folks to forget me. But if I book a call on Tuesday for this Friday, there's fewer days. I don't need to hit them with 4 emails in between. So just use good judgment. If you're an SDR or an AE duo, 3 touches tends to make sense. If it is just you, maybe, combine email 1 and 2, a recap email, a threaded reply into the intro from your AE, and then use the video, put a face to a name. And then you're going to do a morning, a final reminder. Here's a couple of best practices to keep in mind. I always ask, is there anyone else in the recap email? This is an opportunity for you to multi-thread any other decision makers who might need to be a part of the conversation and get them on that call for that meeting you booked. Next, you want to use video in email 1 or 2, depending on that situation. If it's just you, maybe use it in email 1. If you're an SDR AE duo, maybe have your AE do it in email 2. It's going to establish that rapport and also what I like to call the guilt factor. Maybe even throw in an incentive or a surprise at the end. I used to drop a $10 Starbucks gift card in that final email, something goofy like, I know our meeting's at 2 p.m. and I personally get the afternoon sleepies around then, so here's a little pick-me-up. Can't wait to discuss XYZ. And then always, always, always have your reschedule link in each step. This is really important during the holidays. Make it so easy. If they have to bail, not to no call, no show you, let them just reschedule. Fun fact, James from earlier, who bailed on my call for his daughter's recital, he actually used that schedule link for the final reminder and rebooked. He even showed me a picture of his kid on stage as proof. I've been bailed on many a time, but once I started using my reschedule link and this sort of hold rate sequence, my no-shows, and especially my no-call no-shows, dropped significantly. He also, this prospect in particular, mentioned that he would have completely forgotten had it not been for that final reminder, and he appreciated that he was able to reschedule really quickly. All right, so let's see it in Apollo. This has been a ton of content, guys. I know this is the last little feature I'm going to show you right here. This is workflows. Welcome to workflows. If you go down on the left-hand side, click workflows. It's new. It's awesome. This is essentially an automation tool. It's going to help you kind of link together all of the different aspects of the platform. Here's how I would use a workflow to establish this hold rate play. First things first, you need a trigger. Triggers are literally what they sound like. They're a thing that triggers another thing. You can do this in Apollo based on a date or a schedule, or you can do it on an event. I'm going to do it on an event. When someone books a demo, let's see here, write down meeting booked. And the source is sales demo. I'm going to save this. This is my trigger. There you go. Trigger is set. What do I want to happen when they book a demo? Well, I want to drop them in a sequence. I want to add this contact to my Zoe at bat. This is what I called my hold rate sequence. And then there you go. I save the action. Oh, actually first, I want to make sure the email is coming from me. Save the action. That's it. I know this is like a pretty basic walkthrough of workflows. We actually rolled this out today along with our AI Power-Ups tool. And there's going to be a lot more content and information coming out about these tools. But I highly encourage you to check it out. If you're an Apollo user, go play around with it. But this sort of automation layer is going to lay on top of those other tools. It's going to kick that booked meeting into my desired sequence, and it's going to automatically run for me. And the way that I would tie this out, finally, is back in our meetings tool. You can set in any meeting that you create a reminder email. So I have my meetings booked sequence, my Zoe at Bat sequence, do the first 2 emails. And then the final email is anchored to the meeting itself. I set right down here the copy for the reminder email. I could even link in that little gift card if I wanted. And then I usually try and send out a reminder email. I would recommend, 1 or 2 hours prior to the meeting so that if they need to reschedule, they can. Don't forget to include your reschedule link, hit save, and there you go. Now your meeting is updated and you are ready to rock and roll. All right. What a journey, y'all. We covered a lot. You know exactly how many activities you need to crush your number, and you have a nifty little calculator to find it each month. You got the tools to create an enticing offer that gets people really interested and excited about a potential meeting, and you have the plays to book and hold those meetings to drive pipeline. Again, Workflows is a tool that literally dropped today along with AI power-ups. For context, AI power-ups can do pretty much anything you could imagine in terms of research. So review and summarize all of your prospects' social posts, scan their website, or read a press release. And it's going to help you create better, more effective, personalized messaging in like seconds. And Workflows is going to let you use conditional logic, like I just showed you, in your sales process so you can automate really tedious manual tasks that tend to slow you down. It's going to help you create a really streamlined and unique experience to every single lead.